Welcome everybody to the Chang Robotics Brand Call. I'm Cheyenne Lemaire, Marketing Director here, and I will be your co-host for today with Dawn Kapner. We have a very exciting webinar in store for you all today, featuring updates on Go Eco, which is the barrier product that replaces PFAS and microplastics in food packaging. We will also be hearing from Chief Innovation Officer of Jack's Chamber, Carlton Robinson, which, if you didn't know, Chang Robotics is headquartered in Jacksonville, and we love the city. We look forward to hearing his insights. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in today. And without further ado, I will pass it off to our wonderful president, Kate McAfoose, to give some company updates.
Yeah, thanks, Cheyenne, and good afternoon, everybody. We've had a very busy season or month or 2 months. I can't remember when the last brand call was. But as you can see on the screen, we have accomplished an awful lot. And so I'm not going to hit on every single item because that would take the entire time that we have for the brand call. But I will go through just a few high levels, starting with the top one. We did participate in a research grant with a partner company of ours, and we were awarded that around research for fire protection or in automated systems. And so that was just awarded last week. And so we're developing what the plan and the strategy will be around fulfilling that grant and that research. We did conduct a number of engineering assessments for multiple client sites basically through the summer and through the fall. And now that we've wrapped those up, we have converted those to multiple design projects and a couple of R&D efforts in which we will be studying different applications for robotics, and we'll be leveraging the Hand Institute, which is actually down in the middle of the page. National Science Foundation granted an award to Northwestern and a conglomerate of other universities and private sector companies, of which Chang Robotics was one of the 4 founding companies. And so as that initiative gets underway, we will be leveraging those contacts to assist in some of our private sector design and R&D efforts. So a lot of synergies are developing as we work in multiple verticals. We did also complete a software optimization project for another automated site. That client was struggling to meet rate on a system that was provided to them by a different vendor, and they asked for our consultation, and we were able to turn that into a 5x improvement on overall performance for the system. Robot Studio, hopefully anybody that follows us has seen that we have partnered with Jacksonville University here in Jacksonville, and we have set up a robotic test center. We just hosted an open house last week in which both professors and students of JU were able to come through, see the operations of the robots. They also got to test the robots as far as some of the different software interfaces, and 1 or 2 of them even got to drive them. And we have that studio open through the end of the year for students, faculty, and the general public to come and take a tour. So for anyone that's in Jacksonville or will be planning a trip to Jacksonville, please reach out if you'd like to schedule one. Cheyenne and I are available to assist and get those tours done. Dawn is helping us lead an effort on publishing the future of healthcare. So as we're deploying hospital robotic systems around the country, we are impacting nurses and doctors, and we're also getting firsthand experience on not only that technology that we're implementing, but other technologies that are in the industry and are becoming more and more available, and how those partner with the technologies that we're presenting. So we're continuing to broaden our product offering and our service offering around healthcare. And so Dawn has helped us pen a future of healthcare white paper, what the outlook looks like. And then finally, exciting news for us, we are now introducing Phil Hudgens as the new controller to Chang Robotics. And that's just exciting as he's part of the team and keeps us moving and being as financially proficient as we can. And I think that's it. So I'll hand it back to Dawn.
Thanks. Really great to hear of the developments. And I'm excited again to talk about the Chang Robotics Fund and the focus. As an impact fund, you're going to hear about portfolio companies that we have curated and worked with in terms of engineering focus and in terms of their commercialization paths. And we're so excited. And several of the areas are featured here in the slide. Of course, we continue to create autonomous systems and help our clients and these portfolio companies in smart manufacturing. That involves robotics, as we mentioned, with healthcare, and also with food and beverage and other major manufacturing sectors that we work with. And one of the other things that we've been doing 5 or 6 years and now is all the rage is AI. Everyone's talking about how AI is changing the future of business. And it used to be, we said that everybody was in the software business and they didn't know it, but they really are, even if they didn't know it, and everyone is impacted by AI. And Chang Robotics has been working on this 4 or 5 years, and our autonomous systems and the programs and client implementations we do all are energized and powered by AI. So we're looking forward as our portfolio companies catch this same vision and have all kinds of progress going forward. And one of the other big areas, and we focused on this before with our portfolio companies that we've been working with, is energy efficiency, not only in areas like EV for companies like Kodiak Tech, but also companies like REA and others that are doing wastewater systems also are able to do what has to be done in a much more energy efficient way, reducing the carbon footprint. And of course, we're localizing solutions and applications based on the best applications worldwide. And we are also then taking what we do and do on behalf of clients, and we're deploying that globally. So we're very excited of what's going on, and these portfolio companies represent some of the best of what is happening in terms of impacting the environment, impacting society, and again, reducing the carbon footprint. So today we have an opportunity to talk to a gentleman I know very, very well, and I'm just thrilled to do that. And Cheyenne's going to help me with this discussion today. And first, we're going to introduce Paul Boynton. Paul is past president and CEO of Rainier Advanced Materials and has had various senior positions and even worked managing products we all know like Scotch-Brite and Post-it notes. Still use those all the time myself, Paul. So thank you for that. He served on several boards, including Brinks and the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's Jacksonville advisory board. So welcome, Paul, to the Chang Robotics call today. And with Paul is Timothy Way, and Dr. Way is the technology development lead here at Chang Robotics. Both he and I are somewhat recovering academics, and we sometimes have opportunity to talk about that. He's a visionary leader with 30 years of experience, former dean of engineering at a Big Ten university. He's secured millions in grant funding through his research and his colleagues' research, and founded the Transformational Food Manufacturing Initiative to tackle global food security issues. And that transitions me to the beginning of our conversation. Paul, let me start with you. Let's start with the issue at hand. What are PFAS chemicals, Paul? And what's the problem with them and plastics in food packaging?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Don. And hello, everyone. So, look, as we've discussed previously, PFAS or forever chemicals, they're a class of synthetic chemicals. And that's they're technically called per or polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS for short. So everyday examples, Don, include water repellent clothing like Gore-Tex, or nonstick cookware like Teflon, stain resistant treatments for furniture, and coatings for fast food wrappers and takeout food containers. And Don, the advantage of these chemicals is that they're very strong and they're very durable, and they create a great water and grease barrier in food packaging, right? And to top it off, they happen to be very cost effective. The disadvantage with PFAS is they don't break down very well. In fact, therefore, they're referred to as these forever chemicals, and they're often described out there as persistent in the environment, right? Because they stay out there. So they accumulate in the environment, and they're finding their way into our water supply, into plants, animals, and then, of course, humans. And unfortunately, there's a growing body of science that has found potential adverse health impacts associated with these PFAS. And that includes liver damage, decreased fertility, and many types of cancers. And, similarly, plastics in general don't break down very rapidly in the environment, and therefore they also create a huge sustainability challenge, particularly in the growing fast food and food takeaway market segments. So, Don, as a result of all this, we've seen governments at all levels increasingly banning PFAS and plastics in a wide variety of food applications. So you talk about, what's the problem, what are they, what's going on? And so in the case of food and beverage industry, this has created a lot of pressure on the industry, on packaging manufacturers and retailers alike. And they're looking to come up with alternatives to PFAS and plastics in food packaging to create more sustainable. And when I say sustainable, think recyclable, think renewable, think compostable products. And it's been a real challenge. And what we believe, and we're proving it out, is that Go Eco, right, graphene oxide, can be a cost-effective, sustainable barrier enhancement for food packaging. So we're really excited about this and the technology we have here, and the vacuum that's been created out there by government regs appropriately getting rid of these PFASs in the environments, and the industry saying, hey, what do we use? And they haven't come out with a good solution.
Wow, Paul, thank you for shedding some light on that. It sounds like Go Eco could be the best solution, the sustainable solution. So, Tim, could you speak to how Go Eco is the sustainable solution and what's unique about it?
Sure. So Paul's just done a great job of outlining the problems of plastic and PFAS. So as a go forward packaging solution, that's not going to be viable. The problem with paper by itself, it's very weak and porous, really compared to plastic. And so in and of itself, it's not really a viable solution. I'm sort of the generation that when a Starbucks tells me to carry my own cup and straw around, I'm genetically not programmed to do that, right? So that's really a very expensive and impractical solution as well. So we have a colleague, Professor Sunbin Nguyen. He's a distinguished professor of chemistry here at Northwestern, and he proposed this idea of using graphene oxide, which is, and I'll explain that in the next slide. But he's kind of proposed this idea of using graphene oxide as a next generation barrier material for plastics. And by barrier material, it serves like plastic as a great barrier. It keeps water and grease from going across the packaging. So when I say barrier material, that's kind of what I'm referring to. Thing about graphene oxide, it's basically carbon. So it's safe, it's biodegradable, it's compostable, it's very strong. It does have those barrier properties for both liquid, oil, and gas. And used in the amounts that we're talking about, it's very, very inexpensive. Just to give you a perspective, graphene oxide was first discovered as an engineering material in 2004. That seminal work was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2010. Our colleague Sunbin Nguyen here at Northwestern has been active in this field really since its inception. amongst his many publications, he has two publications in particular that I like to highlight. One on how to make graphene oxide, and the other one on characterizing the material properties of graphene oxide. Each of those papers, one was published in 2006, just a couple of years after the original graphene oxide paper was published. One was published in 2006, one in 2007. Each of those papers has been published in the literature, has been referenced in the literature over 15,000 times. So this slide here in the upper left-hand corner, what you see is a little chemical diagram. On the left, you see what's labeled as graphene. That's what graphene looks like. It's a single atom thick layer sheet of carbon sort of bonded together in a little hexagonal pattern. On the right is graphene oxide. And so it's graphene. It has hydroxyl or oxygen hydrogen molecules bonded to it and oxygen ions bonded to it. And that's really what makes this unique and advantageous for our purposes, right? And just above that, you see a electron microscope photograph from the side of a whole bunch of sheets of graphene oxide. So you can see that's 8 micrometers across. There's probably about 30, 40 sheets of graphene oxide. And really what Sunbin's work has been, what he's really contributed to the field is how do you take all those sheets who are all packed together and how to separate them into individual layers. And so if you could just click the animation. So this is a picture of how powerful graphene oxide can be as a barrier material. So we talked about the idea of it's really good as a liquid or oil or a gas barrier material. This picture shows how well it does. Hydrophobicity is water barrier, and you can see that there's these beads of water that have sort of beaded up on a sheet of paper. What you're looking at in that picture is a sheet of paper with graphene oxide on it, and then you put water on top, and you can see that it beads up. Right now, the problem with this, that picture is actually not from Sunbin or our research. The way we describe that is they actually use graphene oxide there as a filler between the cellulose, the wood pulp fibers in paper. And kind of the way we've been describing this is it's like trying to fill the Grand Canyon with buckets of sand, right? So they use so much graphene oxide in order to get that effect. And while it's a good thing, from a commercial perspective, that's completely impractical. It's way too expensive. And sort of the technology we've developed is actually being able to use this orders of magnitude less than what you see in that slide. And so if you could push, hit slide again one more time, thanks. So this is taken from an earlier paper by Professor Nguyen. And what it shows, it's kind of hard to see on my screen, but what it shows is that his original work was looking at applying graphene oxide to plastic substrates, and this really has relevance in sort of the electronics industry. But he was also trying to get the same barrier properties that we're looking at to get from paper. But an added effect is what you see is there's these little blue bars. There's sets of bars, and each one there's a little blue bar. The left one is the Young's modulus, or basically the strength of the paper, and the actual tensile strength and how hard it is to pull the paper apart is the middle one, and the last one is called the glass transition temperature. The gray bars are graphene oxide on a plastic substrate. So the blue is the plastic substrate without anything added, and the gray is the increase because you've added graphene oxide. And so this is applied to plastic. We think that there's a parallel to paper, but what you can see is that the Young's modulus is increased by 80% with the addition of very, very small amounts of graphene oxide. and the strength of the paper is increased by about 20%, again, with very small amounts of graphene oxide. So that kind of gives you a sense of a little bit of a technical deep dive of graphene oxide and what it does and how it works. And so that's what we're bringing to the food packaging industry.
Thanks, Tim. So you've just demonstrated some of the data and experiments that shows the how well graphene oxide performs as a barrier material. Is there anything else that you want to add to that? Or I can pass it to my colleague Cheyenne for if she's got another question, I know.
Yeah, I think if you want to speak to these next slides about the data and experiments to show how well it performs, Tim, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. So kind of what I've talked about is really more theoretical and applied to plastic substrates. So we've done testing on a variety of different kinds of papers. So we've done testing on food grade paperboard packaging. So that would be, think about like a box that a Marie Callender's pot pie would come in. We've done testing on recycled paper bags, which are used in meal kit companies. And we're also working with a large disposable tableware company, and they're interested in using graphene oxide on their paper plates. And so other results that we have are pretty much universal across the different types of paper. So I've just kind of chosen one example to share with you. What we did, so this is from the tableware company. What they did is they gave us a number of commercial plates, and they told us that the top of the plate has what they call their barrier chemistry, and the bottom of the plate does not. And so we devised an experiment where we measure how much water. So we cut coupons out of the plate, little square coupons, and we'll put water on there, and we'll measure how much water that little coupon absorbs over time. So what we do is we cut out a coupon, we weigh it, and then we put water on it, and then we let it sit for 10 minutes, and then we take the water off, and then we weigh the paper again, and then we take the water off. Then we put water back on, let it sit another 10 minutes, take it off, weigh the paper, and so on. We do that for an hour. And so that's what you see here is on the vertical axis, that's the amount of water that the plate has, that the coupon has absorbed every 10 minutes, and the x-axis is time, or every 10 minutes. So what you see on that plot is the little open circles. That's the reference. That's how much water the top of the commercial plate, a coupon made of the top commercial, a coupon made from the top of the commercial plate absorbs every 10 minutes. And so you can see how much that it absorbs more water every 10 minutes. We do the same experiment and do measurements on the bottom of the plate, and those are the open squares. And you can see that the bottom of the plate absorbs more water than the top of the plate, and that's consistent with the idea that the barrier chemistry is on the top of the plate. Then what we did is we took our graphene oxide solution and we put it on the bottom of one of the commercial plates, because in principle that doesn't have any barrier chemistry on it. And then we do the water absorption test there, and that's the solid black squares. And what you can see is that when we add graphene oxide to the bottom of the plate, it does at least as well as the top of the plate, right? So now if you can go to the next slide, we do a similar experiment with oil instead of water, because grease behaves differently than water, right? And so we do the same sort of experiment here, except now we're adding olive oil instead of water. And we do measurements every 5 minutes. And so these guys gave us, they had 6 plates which did not have any barrier chemistry in it at all. All right. And so we refer to those as kind of our, what we call them, our holy plates, because there were so few of them, and they were sort of sacred to us. But we did oil absorption on the top of a commercial plate, which has all the chemistry on it. And again, you can see in the plot there, the open circles are the amount of oil that the commercial plate absorbs every 5 minutes, and then we do another measurement after an hour. The X's, which are at the top of the plot, those show the amount of oil that the top of what we call the holy plates, the top of the plate, which has no barrier chemistry on it at all. You can see how much oil that plate absorbs. And then we applied graphene oxide to the plate that has absolutely no barrier holdout in it at all. And those are the red squares with the X's. And again, just like the water absorption, you can see that when we put the graphene oxide, we basically have now applied something that performs just as well as their commercial plates. And this is very, very, very small amounts of graphene oxide. Okay, so we've shown water barrier, we've shown oil barrier, and then the last part is gas barrier. And we don't have a direct measurement, but we actually did an interesting experiment where we looked at food freshness. And what we did is we took baby bok choy leaf and we stuck it inside a commercial plastic food storage bag. Right. And so I basically took this, stuck it in the bag, sealed the bag shut, and then just left it actually out in room temperature for 2 weeks. And every day I took a picture of that leaf to see what happens to it. And you can see here, basically between day 4 and day 12, you can see how the leaf sort of spoils over time. Right. We took a commercial grade sheet of paperboard, which has no barrier material added to it, and we applied our graphene oxide solution to it. And then we folded it in half, basically to make an envelope, cut a window out of it so you could see inside, and put a sheet of plastic over the window to keep air out, put a baby bok choy leaf inside that envelope and sealed all the edges, and put that right next to that plastic bag. And so Cheyenne, if you can click on that, this is a day-to-day comparison, exact the same days. The two samples are side by side for 2 weeks, and you can see how the baby bok choy leaf in the graphene oxide paperboard package does a whole lot better than the bok choy leaf inside the food storage bag. So what that tells us is that there's actually a lot of hope for very long-term barrier properties necessary for food storage. That's sort of kind of a next step for us. But this actually gives us sort of a sense of how there's also enhanced gas barrier properties, right? So we've looked at liquid, oils, and gas barrier properties for a range of different products, and the results are consistently showing that graphene oxide or GoEco seems to be a very viable solution going forward.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much. So it really sounds like from a technical perspective, this works. So Paul, could you talk a little bit about bringing it to market? How big is the market for GoEco and food packaging?
So yeah, thanks Cheyenne, and thanks Tim. Really exciting to see that data. It gives us a lot of hope and promise for this fit in the marketplace. And so Cheyenne, you asked about the size of the market. So in our product development and commercialization process, we continue to work with industry partners to refine our value equation. So as such, we're still putting our arms around the total addressable market for GoEco. But what we know for sure at this point is the market is large and the interest in GoEco is strong. But let me frame this for you with some existing market facts, just to kind of give us a framework around it. And let's just start with the total global market for food packaging. And it's a very large market. It's $350 to $400 billion market. And this, of course, includes all types of food packaging, plastics, paper, durable packaging. And this market is experiencing a strong global growth, 5 to 7%. And so if we just focus now of that market, that total food packaging market, just focus in on paper-based food packaging. And this is where we believe is the logical fit for us, right? Renewable, recyclable, compostable partner with graphene oxide. We believe this segment is about 20 to 25% of the total food packaging market. So roughly 70 to $80 billion. Again, a very large market. And it's growing slightly above that 5 to 7% growth that we saw in total food packaging just because of the sustainable potential of paper-based food packaging. And that's where everybody's looking to go. And so here's another reference point for us. So, again, 70 to 80 billion into paper-based food packaging. And now, as Tim was talking about there, there's coatings out there that are on these paper-based packaging materials, and they include, waxes, barrier films that Tim was talking about. And then, of course, still some PFAS out there is used in conjunction with paper-based food packaging. And so these coatings are in the range of 5 billion or so. So if you look at all that together, you say this is a sizable and very interesting market, and it's a remarkable opportunity, I think, for Go Eco.
So, Paul, how does the team plan to bring this to market then? What are the possibilities, or potentially, what are you working on now in terms of commercialization?
Yeah, sure. Look, Don, we're working with industry partners at every level to help us refine our marketing offering, and commercialize the Go Eco product. And so I know we got probably new listeners on this call, of course, and I think we should let this question be an invitation to other partners to reach out to us and work with us as we bring this to market. And that's certainly what happened in the last call. People heard about this and said, hey, I want to work. And as they work with us and we work with our existing partners, it gives us a lot of different perspectives on how we should go to market. And there are a range of commercialization paths here, Don. And I'm going to tell you about them and recognize that these are not exclusive. These are kind of and or. So one thing certainly we're looking at is selling and or licensing the product to barrier coating manufacturers and let them optimize separately or together with offerings that they have. And then there's an and or sell or license the product into food paper, paperboard, and paper product manufacturers, right? So a lot of the things we just talked about with Tim there. And another and or is license or brand the product with consumer food retailers. And we are also working with them. So we're working with all parts of this supply chain here. And I think from that, we're going to optimize our commercialization strategy and our go-to-market strategy. And hopefully, again, out of this, new partnerships will help us shape it. So we'll keep everybody posted, but we've got lots of interesting angles to go and pursue here.
That's awesome, Paul. I know the team has been working super hard and there's been a lot of interest, especially since our last call. Can you shed some color on what new developments have materialized in the past 90 days?
Yeah, thanks, Cheyenne. So it's, as you said, it's been busy, right? Since our last brand call, we have been, and I can tell you, I've been in product development and commercialization for more than 30 years. And rarely have I seen, and I have seen it, but rarely have I seen receptivity and interest and willingness by potential partners to spend time, to spend energy, to spend dollars to so quickly join a developer, us, on a new product. So what I see and what I immediately just kind of say, hey, just from a very pragmatic point of view, there's a real need out there. There's a need for more effective, sustainable barrier coatings in the market with the exit of PFAS and the concern about plastic. So it hasn't taken much to get people's attention. That last brand call, the phones really and the emails just started coming in. And so, Cheyenne, specifically to your question, in the last 90 days, we've put roughly a dozen companies into non-disclosure agreements. We've partnered now with some of the world's leading and largest paper food packaging companies. We're working with consumer retailers and their packaging suppliers. So not only the retailers, but they said, hey, we like this, we need this, can you work with our suppliers? And so as a team, we're having dialogues with the three of us. We have pilot equipment trials scheduled with numerous partners. So we're taking it to that next level, out of the laboratory into practice with some pilot runs coming up. We've established design of experiments. So we've got to optimize the parameters here, right? So how much Go Eco, how much barrier coating, if any, what else do we need? Some kind of agents added to it. What's the fiber loading? Can we reduce the amount of cellulose fiber in there? So we're established a design of experience now to how do we really optimize this product? And with that, we've got a host of testing protocols, right? And Tim just showed you a host of tests that we've done so far, and we'll be doing that on the pilot equipment coming up. And finally, we're well underway to establish approval process with the FDA. We're already in a dialogue with them, so in 90 days, Cheyenne, a lot has happened. And it's a lot of fun because this thing is moving. And again, it's not a push, it's a pull. You say, here's what we got. And folks are saying, that's really cool. Can we talk to you guys? We're glad to sign an NDA and let's get going.
Wow, Paul. It's so great to hear the receptivity of Go Eco, and certainly there's a void in the food packaging market. So give us some milestones for as we approach 2025, and what can we look forward to in the next few months in terms of your progress, your commercialization path?
Yeah, sure. It's going to be busy, as you can quite imagine. But look, in Q1 of 2025, we should be able to have multiple partners with pilot plant produced products using Go Eco. So that's exciting, right? These are processes that mimic their production. And this is going to give us a real understanding of how to optimize Go Eco graphene oxide concentrations with other additives and fiber loading. So Q1, we should expect that. In Q3, I believe we'll have commercial product produced and through FDA approval. So we're going to take it out of the pilot. I think it's going to be proved to be effective coming out of the pilot. And then we're going to take it to the next level and do commercially produced. And of course, that would have to have FDA approval. Some of that can come right off the pilot plant. Some of that will come off of the production side of it. And then finally, Don, I think in Q3, Q4, we're targeting to have commercial product into the market. So the next 12 months, it's going to be full, it's going to be exciting, and we should have commercial product out there.
Wow. Well, thank you, Paul and Tim. This was fascinating. It's clear that we live in a society today that's increasingly aware of the need for sustainable solutions, and Chang Robotics' license for graphene oxide is one of the major tools that can help. Also, there's a sizable demand for food packaging and the functional properties that graphene oxide provides and can enhance. So congratulations to everybody on the team, and we look forward to your updates and progress. And now it's the point in the call where I'd like to invite our next guest, Carlton Robinson. Carlton is a Northeast Florida community leader that I have known since 2012. We are longtime friends. When I was dean of the Davis College of Business at Jacksonville University, up until 2019, we worked very, very closely together while he was chief innovation officer at Jack's Chamber. His Bridges program is renowned in Northeast Florida. 20 years of entrepreneurial and economic development experience. And he's been an advocate for minority-owned businesses like Chang Robotics and fostering inclusive growth. So Carlton, welcome today to the Brand Call. It is great to see you again, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Yeah, so let's kick it off. Tell me about this entrepreneurial ecosystem in Northeast Florida. Where was it when you started? Where are you now? And why is Jacksonville a hot place to start a new venture?
Yes, great question. And I would say when I started, which I hate dating myself, but I've been doing this work for about 20 years. And when I started, I think we could describe the Jacksonville ecosystem as more small business formation, small business development. And during that time in the middle 2000s, a few of us said the word ecosystem and people kind of looked at us like, what are you talking about? So there's been a lot of progress since that. I think from 2005 to maybe 2011 or 12 was about that small business period. And then around 2011, 12, we had some events, one conference that you sponsored at Jacksonville University. We had one Spark. We brought our first startup weekend. And I would say from that period until maybe 2018, 19, we were more of an entrepreneurial community. And then around 2019, we started to make a transition into more innovation. So we saw a lot more activity from our corporate partners, not necessarily working in concert, but just pockets of entrepreneurship and innovation throughout our large region. And so if I were looking back, I would say, we had those periods of transition from small business to entrepreneurship to where we are right now with innovation.
So you talked about the evolution and the progress in the market, and you were one of the founding partners behind the idea of the Jacksonville Venture Competition and other little gaps, like where was the funding going to come for startups? How are we going to sort of fill in the gaps that was keeping Jacksonville from being truly a great entrepreneurial ecosystem? And I applaud you for all of your efforts there. My question is, in the smaller companies and mid-sized companies, often you don't see a lot of this participation and even innovation work. And tell me a little bit about, you and I have talked about how companies need to be outward focused and working with partners. And I shared with you a 2035 future company kind of vision. And I'm just wondering how you believe more companies can adopt characteristics in and around Jacksonville, and who are example companies that are small or medium sized, that are outward facing, they are focused on not only doing their own thing but strengthening the ecosystem.
Right. So obviously, lots of companies are driving innovation out of their performance efforts. I think I've had a relationship with Chang Robotics for a number of years. I was fortunate enough to do one of the kickoff meetings for New Year many years ago. And what I think companies like Chang Robotics have in common is something that I found in a visit to MIT maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's what's called innovation-driven entrepreneurship. And companies that embody innovation-driven entrepreneurship, they have a little bit different focus. So sometimes we talk about innovation just from the general sense of wanting to create something new, but it's really more purposeful than that. Some of the things that they focus on are being operating in super regional or global markets. They also do something that's very unique in terms of creating tradable jobs. And those are jobs that don't have to be performed locally. And then they typically have very diverse ownership, and not so much by social categories, but in their perspective. And then I would say the other thing that innovation-driven companies have is they're investing time, effort, resources, not only in the innovation, but also their immediate community and environment. And so when I look at Chang Robotics, I see a lot of that engagement with several universities, being a part of lots of different federal grant applications, and then working outside of our region as well. And that's important because we want to import our services, and then we want to also export different types of services. And what happens is we have a local company that's actually creating economic activity by operating in other markets and regions. And so they have that export and import impact. And the more small and medium firms that we can get that are exercising those types of activities, the better place Jacksonville can be.
Awesome, Carlton. Thank you. Yeah, I'm wondering, after touring so many leading cities, what to you is Jacksonville's secret sauce or competitive edge when attracting new businesses?
You guys are just throwing some great questions at me today, but I'm ready. I would say, and I've thought about this for a long time, one of our challenges is, we have so much beach here in Jacksonville, and there's a lot of area for us to cover, which makes it hard for us to kind of create a lot of density. So people love living here in Jacksonville. And one of the things that we have as an entrepreneurial community is your ability to launch something and get validation and engagement from the entrepreneurial community and corporate community. So there are lots of other places where you can launch a business, but actually getting the validation and participation is a little bit more challenging. The companies here in Jacksonville, the entrepreneurial community, the innovation community, is very likely to help push something along and give people feedback. And sometimes validation is the thing that you need the fastest in order to grow a company. So I think that's one thing that's a real secret sauce for us here in Jacksonville. I've experienced it myself, and I know several other companies that have.
I love that. Could you speak to what is happening currently to provide more access to venture financing and why this is important to Northeast Florida?
So venture financing is always challenging to talk about, right? Because we have to help educate entrepreneurs and innovators on, what's the best approach to actually finance your venture or product or service. So sometimes it could be debt financing, it could be a combination, but then understanding how to structure a deal for venture financing is challenging depending on the location of the funders. So if the funders are here locally, they know a little bit more about our area, and we do have 3 or 4 groups that are local. If the funding is more statewide, so typically you have investors, they want to make sure they're within proximity of what they're investing in. And this is something that we really have to educate entrepreneurs on, is the proximity of the investors. So for us here in Florida, or in Jacksonville, we have our local market, the Florida market, and then we also have access to Georgia and maybe South Carolina, because those are within 4 to 5 hours travel time. I would say from an entrepreneurial perspective, what we can do better to help attract more funding. One, work with entrepreneurs to identify the proximity bias that investors have. And then 2, understanding the right structure of a deal and then knowing what phase your business is in to communicate that. Because some funders are looking for very specific stages, some just beyond startup and some just before high growth, because of their intent on what they want their return to be. So having that conversation, I think we're doing a better job having that conversation locally, but in the past we struggled. And so we kind of sent some entrepreneurs to market asking for funding without the right education.
Well, thank you, Carlton. It's been really great to talk to you and hear your perspective. And the Chang Robotics Fund, as you can guess, is focused not only on companies in and around Florida, but regionally and even nationally, that not only have great intellectual property and a focus on areas that impact the environment, carbon footprint, and other things that we talked about earlier in the call, but also we're providing a funding mechanism for those companies that with expert engineering, injection of Chang Robotics engineers into their own internal capabilities, that we can supercharge those businesses in various ways. So we're excited, and we're so grateful to have you as someone we can lean on and get advice from. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. I'll take it away on this one. As marketing director at Chang Robotics, it's my job to keep you informed about what's going on. So here's some recent features we've had in the media. First up, Matthew Chang, our founder, is now part of the Fast Company Impact Council and is a contributing author in the magazine, which is awesome. His first article came out pretty recently, 2 weeks ago, I believe, and it's about the likelihood of your next great idea coming from some of the most unexpected places. It's a really good read. Make sure to check it out. Next up, Matt and Chang Robotics were recognized by the Florida Minority Business Awards in the Innovation and Technology category. We also recently released a press release on our host, Don Kapner, who has had a role shift and is joining Chang Robotics' team as Chief Strategy and Culture Officer. So give it up for Don. We also recently hosted a panel with one of our partners, McGuff, and they discussed technology and sustainability and commercial real estate. And we love collaborating with our partners, so shout out to McGuff there. And last but not least, Kate mentioned it earlier in our company update section, but we're actually celebrating 1 month of our robot studio, which is a showcase at Jacksonville University that people can come out and tour to see our autonomous mobile robots in action, learn about the different applications across industries. And yeah, it's a great time. So if you're interested in touring, go visit our website. We post a lot about it on LinkedIn. All of this and more can be found on our website and our LinkedIn. So that's it for me. I'll pass it off to Dawn to close us out.
Thank you, Cheyenne. So you might be thinking, after hearing about GoEco and just the amazing progress that's been made, both in the technological development, the development of the intellectual property, and the commercialization efforts, that how you might be able to be involved. And the Chang Robotics Fund is now live. We're looking for folks who have connections and time that could help us. GoEco is representative of 9 other portfolio companies that have been carefully curated and are being enhanced and working with Chang Robotics engineering folks. So we're looking also to grow our team, and we're looking for great talent. We have folks as far away as Denver and Salt Lake City, Utah, and a kind of a coalition of a lot of folks in and around Jacksonville, as we've talked about today, which is our headquarters city. And so we're looking for more talent, and we are going to be growing. And we're looking for folks who want to be involved in an impact fund like this. And then, of course, Treasure, we're looking for folks with resources to help us supercharge these businesses. And we're grateful today to be able to focus on GoEco, and it's representative again of 10 companies doing amazing things in all the areas we identified in the first part of the call. And I mentioned that we're live. We are now working as a Chang Robotics Fund team to get out and talk to family offices and accredited individuals who are interested in making this impact fund and helping these companies like GoEco move as quickly and as efficaciously as they can. And we're excited to be able to talk to those folks, and we're looking forward to reaching out to more people and looking for referrals. And this is how you can find out more about the Chang Robotics Fund and take you to our website. And we look forward to getting the chance to talk to you individually. Thank you for being part of the brand call today. And a big thanks to Kate, to Paul, Tim, and Carlton for being part of today's call. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month, same time, first Wednesday of the month at 1:30 Eastern. Thanks, everyone. And it's great to have got the chance to visit with you today. I guess before I close out, do we have any questions from any of the participants? We have maybe 1 or 2 minutes here.
Don, I have a question. So as an impact fund, and all of the companies being focused on environmental efforts and stuff like that, how can investors get a bird's eye view of how the other portfolio companies are making a difference?
Well, thank you, Lane, for that question. And we will be featuring the portfolio companies in future brand calls. We'll have as many as 2 on the same call. And so it'll take us a few months to get through all 10, but if you just reach out to us, we will provide for you not only the investment thesis of the fund and the difference that we know it will make to the impact areas we've identified, but in terms of an investment return, we'll provide all of that information to you. And we look forward to individual inquiries because one of the unique things about the Chang Robotics Fund is we aren't raising money and then looking for companies to deploy the proceeds from fundraising. We already have these folks as clients and as partners of Chang Robotics. We know all about them. We have an inside view, a bird's eye view to the commercialization paths, the revenue plateaus that they're going to be able to achieve with an additional investment. So it's an exciting time. We'll do it with the brand calls, but we want to do this individually. So we ask you to reach out to us, and we will get back to you and look forward to one-on-one calls with accredited investors and others. We're out of time today. Thank you for your questions and participation, and thank you for being here at the Chang Robotics Brand Call. We'll see you next month.